I think supply chain is still going to be very much upside down. We're going to see things that hurt last year start to get better next year, but it's still going to be a lot of turmoil. And I think we're still going to have talking about supply chain in a big way. We're still going to see delays. We're still going to see unusual hotspots of materials being unavailable. The reality of it is that we still have a war in one part of the world, and we still have COVID lockdowns in another part of the world, and we don't have enough materials built in any one region to make a full BOM for most customers in most places. So I think supply chain is going to, in some ways, get on track, but it's just going to be a different set of headlines. Now, the evergreen discussion in the technology world has always been about artificial intelligence. That's been going on for about 3 years now, but it really feels like it's accelerated literally in the last 6 months, even in the last 3 months. I think because OpenAI is starting to allow people access to all of these new models, frankly, amazing, right? When you look at what they're doing with graphics generation, in some cases video generation, but especially text generation, these are such amazing examples of what AI could do, that you all of a sudden start to realize that the predictions we heard for the last 10 years are probably not going to come true. Think back to what Andrew Yang said when he was running for president. We will have a total wipeout of truckers who are going to be unemployed, and self-driving AI is going to take over. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I think the truckers are okay. Now, copywriters, they may be in trouble. I think graphic designers may get a new set of tools, but I think graphic design, all these creative jobs, which we didn't think were at risk, are very much at risk now. I think people are looking at a lot of these models, and it's really phenomenal progress, but I think people are extrapolating and saying, is this finally going to happen for manufacturing and supply chain? I don't think so. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen in the future. It just means that these models have gotten really good at absorbing vast amounts of data. We're talking about 100 terabytes plus of data that's either scraped on the internet. When you look at AI-driven image generation, how are they doing that? It's frankly all the stuff you upload to your social media, right? It's a lot of stuff that they're downloading from the internet, and they're synthesizing what collective imagination might look like. Now, what does it take to actually do that at scale for manufacturing? It's not public data, it's private data. So are the best AI minds today working with supply chain data or manufacturing data? First of all, the answer is no. So it will take time for those models to get fully commercialized, start to get applied to data sets that we haven't actually trained these models on. It's going to take much longer time, but that's not even going to be the biggest hurdle. The biggest hurdle is going to be the exact same hurdle we've seen with self-driving cars. A lot of examples of self-driving cars look great in demos. The question is, would you put your kid in an AI-driven car and let the car autonomously take your kid to work? And the answer is, of course not. I don't care what kind of beta they're running at Tesla. I'm not letting that thing drive my kid anywhere, right? Like, I'm not even sure if I'm going to let my hands off the steering wheel. Now, apply that to manufacturing or supply chain data where a small mistake costs you millions of dollars, or broken product that is now potentially killing people or hurting people. The reality of it is that the AI models that have been so impressive also have no wrong answers, right? When you're getting somebody to write a script for a TV show, there's no wrong way to do that. There's just degrees of cleverness or humor or dramatic situations that may or may not happen. But nothing happens if it doesn't work. The data sets required for manufacturing and supply chain are not just private, they're also very complex, and the downside of making a mistake are massive. So I think we're going to see a lot of headlines about startups getting funded. I think we may even see some success stories being published about some very specific ways in which they work, but these are going to be very controlled examples. And, you know, a good example of this is what happened with IBM. And I think 2 years ago, IBM said they're going to cure cancer using artificial intelligence. We're 2 years later, and I don't think cancer has been cured yet. So we're dealing with very complex problems. It's going to take just much longer. It will probably make a difference at some point. We're in for a long haul. I think we're going to get self-driving cars. I think we're going to get AI-driven factories. I just don't think we're going to get them as quickly as everybody thinks we're going to get them. So my prediction is not next year, not even the year after that. I don't think that's going to be the majority of what we're dealing with next year. I'm going back to 40% manufacturing drop in China, that is a massive change. And it's not just caused by zero COVID policies. There's a confluence of different things that are coming together for that. I think we're going to see more and more of that happen in 2023. I think we're going to see the world rebalance where they're building not just electronics, but a lot of products very quickly. And I think there's going to be a lot of supply chain people that are spending next year not on deploying AI technology, probably not sourcing materials. I think that we may not get relief, but we know how to source materials and how to, in some cases, just be patient and wait. But I think figuring out where you're going to get your factory capacity. Is that factory going to be around for a long time? Is there going to be enough factory capacity available specifically to you as a customer? Just because you're in a factory doesn't mean you're the most important customer to that factory. I think we're going to see a lot of turbulence on that front. So we've had a supply chain driven crunch in manufacturing for the last year. We may be heading for a labor driven crunch for the next couple of years. We're already seeing that. The moment manufacturing jobs started to leave China and go into Vietnam ran out of roads, right? Just roads to take materials out of China and deliver them to factories because their infrastructure isn't good enough. And like any country where manufacturing jobs start to increase wages, you start to see a lot of attrition. It happens in Vietnam, happens in India, and it's happening now in Mexico. There's going to be more and more competition for qualified people to build products. So we're going to see turbulence in just the labor market. And things may get worse. There's a scenario where what we're seeing next year is continued turbulence from supply chain, more new turbulence from the musical chairs played with factories, and at the same time, a global slowdown. We may see, and then this is where factories are very vulnerable. There are certain factories in some parts of the world that are serving specific industries. If those industries are recession sensitive, you may see some percentage of factories go out of business, right? Which will create even more turmoil because the factory you've relied on for the last 5 years may simply run out of cash to operate, and they may find themselves in a situation where you need to go find a new factory, and the factory that you thought was there to support you during that transition is no longer around.